Hello, this is Dan Sanderson on behalf of Woodcrafters again with the accounting videos. This video is going to be covering purchase order imports and reconciling and whatnot. This one may end up breaking into 2 or even 3 videos. There's a lot to unpack in the purchase order portion of energy. So I'm going to start. We have already gone through and reconciled a whole bunch of purchase orders for the week, which is really for the month, but we kind of do it weekly. But I have a couple that I can go ahead and input for you, or actually kind of recreate some of the issues during the input portion. So the first thing that I'm going to start with is I've got an invoice from a vendor from Hallmark for PO 100694. So I'm going to go in and go ahead and find that purchase order, and it is a partially received purchase order. So one of the things that I do want to point out while I have the opportunity is that when I'm going to the export function later in order to do the import into QuickBooks, there's no way to determine which purchase orders to select. So right now I can flag a reconciled, but if it's a partially received purchase order, what I'm doing is I'm actually separating the partially received and the reconciled during imports or import-export, because basically if I'm going through, there's no way I remember that that was one that I received an invoice for. Some kind of flag on that would be awesome. I don't know, exactly what to do about it, but right now our workaround is simply to basically do them in 2 separate sections. So I'm gonna open up this purchase order. So here at Woodcrafters, we do end up sending a lot of purchase orders off with $0 value, because we don't yet know the cost of the item. Project managers purchase their own materials. Right now that includes me as one of them, and I'm spread pretty thin, so a lot of times, I'll just be honest, I don't get the opportunity to go in and update the price. It would be really helpful with purchasing if at some point you updated the price here, if it linked back to updating the price on the actual material. As far as I can tell, it doesn't, and you would have to actually go back manually and do that on the materials. And along that same note, it would be really helpful if, and I know all these are things that people should do, but I think I'd probably speak on behalf of most of the energy customers that a lot of people don't always do what they're supposed to do. It'd be really helpful if the GL account and the selection for expense upon receipt, if that actually filtered back, or I guess got sent back to the material itself. So if I go into silver gray, there's a good chance that that doesn't have a GL account tied to it right now. So that's an extra step that the person who imports these or inputs these, which is a combination of another employee and myself again, it'd be another step that they have to go and open that material and go find it and then update the GL account, and then that's taken care of. I don't see a problem with just sending this GL account back into that material, because I don't see that it would ever necessarily change. All right, so this one has actually been input already. So this is the example for the partially received difficulty that I'm having when I go and I export the purchase orders in order to import into our QuickBooks. So I've got another one that I'm going to see if I can go ahead and find. It is 100705. And that one's marked as partially received. And if I look at the receipts, here's a good example. So There's a couple different circumstances that it doesn't quite hold the information like it's supposed to, and I can't find a rhyme or a reason. I'm going to go ahead and actually clear this information out. So I put in the GL account for this, and for some reason it's not holding. So I'm going to go ahead and clear this stuff out and see if it follows what I'm looking to do. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go back on that, and I will do that on a different different PO to demonstrate one of the difficulties that we're having. So I'm going to go ahead and try to set this up. Let's see, supplies buyouts is where we put that. If I update the receipt, now hopefully it holds, but I can tell you that I have plenty of instances where it doesn't. Hopefully I can demonstrate that in a couple minutes. I'm going to go find one more invoice. 716. That is fully received. Now this one has not had any input, so here we go. This is my typical process, and I'll try it a few different ways just to kind of demonstrate the problem that happens. So I'm going to start with the first line item, which is bisque adhesive, which is this one down here. It says I was shipped to at $70.86 a piece, so that's fine. It is in the incorrect GL account, so I'm going to kick that back to supplies buyouts. Now I'm going to go ahead and input the invoice number from the vendor. And if this does what I think it's going to, hopefully you'll see something that's extremely frustrating. So invoice 1517032. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that so that I can input that on the rest real easy. But now I'm going to go ahead and change the invoice date to October 12th. And I'll update the receipt. So you'll notice there's a weird glitch, or I don't know what it is, but as I go and I update the receipt, or if I jump off to something else, that date's going to really quick change. And I'll just be honest, it's led me to a little bit of skepticism as to whether, I haven't found any mistakes, but it makes me nervous when I import it into QuickBooks. I need to make sure that that invoice date's correct, otherwise I'm going to be paying invoices late. But watch that 1012. No, well, it didn't work that time, but let's see if this one works now. So let's say I went in and I input the invoice date as 1012. So now I'm going to go ahead and put in the invoice, and I'll set the GL account. Now, if you look at that right there, immediately it jumped to 1017, and that's just frustrating as all hell, because it shouldn't really matter based on what order you put it in, I wouldn't think, but maybe there's a reason for that, I don't know. So I changed the GL account, put that in, and I'm going to go ahead and change that back to 1012. Now if I hit update receipts, it should flash 1011 and then jump back. There it goes, and now it's back. So I'll tell you, these quirks with the dates is what leads me to go in and double check everything in QuickBooks after I do the import. And it's just a little more time consuming than it should be. We do it anyways. It's kind of my thought process of fake it till you make it. I'd rather be implemented and dealing with these nuances or difficulties rather than wait 6 months for everything to be perfect and then try to catch up. That should not be in a cost of goods sold 5,000 account. Sorry, it should be in a cost of goods sold, but it needs to be in my supplies and buyouts again. All right, I'm going to go ahead and put this in my supplies and buyouts. Okay, I'll put in the invoice date and the invoice number, and then I'll change the date, 10/12, and I'll change the date again. All right, so it looks like everything's set up correctly. Now I am going to throw out that the total on this is $28.12.66, and the total on my invoice is $28.12.66. So this is a good example of one that we actually updated the dollar value and actually received everything. So that's pretty fantastic. We're reaching 10 minutes on this recording, so I'm going to go ahead and break it into a second recording to show you some difficulties that we're having in other places. All right, and I'll cut it off here.